On your left with Demir Shadow, Tariq Patel on your right with Grixis Delver. Ryan, this matchup is pretty complex, as most Brainstorms fair blue decks tend to be. Who do you have winning this match?
I think that Death Shadow puts a lot of pressure on the other blue decks, just because if you're not playing Swords to Plowshares, it's really difficult to answer. That's going to be an edge in Tumavitch's favor, but you got to play with your life total too, so Lightning Bolt can come into play. Patel is on the play, which is very significant in these tempo matchups. You see him leading on Underground Sea into Delver of Secrets. Does not transform it, but he's coming in for 1 point here on Tumavitch.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to transform eventually, unless you're me. And then it's going to start chunking in for 3 damage. Now, Tumavitch can actually kind of manage that chip damage as much as he likes to potentially unlock a Death Shadow that may be stuck in his hand. And he may have even wanted that Delver Secrets to transform early.
Right.
You know, Tariq Patel there, if he has a follow-up threat here, like a young Pyromancer or another Delver of Secrets, it's going to look pretty bad for Tumavitch.
You see Patel cracking a Flutter Strand in the main phase, down to 19, now a Volcanic Island. Going to cast a Ponder off the Underground Sea, playing around Daze, I suppose.
Now, Tariq Patel, I believe he does have a Dark Confidant in hand, and it does look like he is going to be playing around Daze this turn. That Dark Confidant, he is recognizing it as a super important card, and when he has initiative with that Delver of Secrets, there's no reason to unlock cards like Daze from the Demir Shadow side.
Patel's Ponder did not look very good. You saw him shuffle away 2 lands and then drew Volcanic Island off the Ponder. Not clear if he wanted that 3rd land or if he already had it.
It's possible he's just trying to transform Delver of Secrets, and with the top 3 being Land, True Name Nemesis, just wants to give it a fresh look. That extra land might be handy, but Matt Tumavitch notably also not playing, is playing Wasteland, but not really like applying a lot of pressure early, so Tariq Patel has the ability to draw out of any sort of land glut he might get into.
Interesting setup for Tumavitch. He has 2 non-blue fetch lands on the battlefield. You see a Marsh Flats and a Verdant Catacombs. Not cracking anything just yet. Not really giving away much information on that fact that he's playing a Demir Shadow deck, as we see Patel now transforms the Delver to Daze.
Well, the fact that Tariq didn't run his Dark Confidant out there on turn 2, I have a feeling these 2 players know what each other are playing.
Yeah, the playing around Daze certainly informs that. You see Tariq is going to come in for 3. Tumavitch is going to fetch up an Underground Sea. See if he has some action on this. And it's a Dismember.
And now I want to point this out. Even though Matt Tumavitch could have fetched up Watery Grave to deal himself a little more damage, he understands that the life totals matter a lot in this matchup. If Tariq Patel is able to get ahead on the battlefield, something like a well-timed Daze can just make everything fall apart, and then you're looking at 2 less life than you would have facing off a 2-power creature.
And here is that Dark Confidant for Patel after playing Misty Rainforest. Respecting that Daze, Dark Confidant resolves. We'll go back Tumavitch's way. He's at 14 off of the Dismember and some fetch land and hit for the Delver.
Dark Confidant's a bit of new, old technology. A lot of players are playing it here this weekend in Grixis Delver. I know that good buddy Daryl Ayers is also playing Grixis Delver. I have to assume that this is the Bob Wong contingent, and they all kind of work together on this list. Because I don't think it's a coincidence that all of the players picked up Dark Confidant at the same time effectively.
I would definitely take notes off of Bob, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, we saw Dark Confidant gain a little bit of notoriety in the last few weeks thanks to Grixis Phoenix as an alternate win condition alongside Young Pyromancer that didn't utilize the graveyard and pairs nicely with discard effects. And it's interesting to see the Grixis Delver decks taking advantage of that as well.
Tumavitch is going to cast Thoughtseize here. Get a look at Patel's hand. It's Volcanic Island, Brainstorm, Young Pyromancer, Daze. Frequently there's some incentive to use your Brainstorm around a discard spell, but Patel continued to play around Daze. Young Pyromancer is the take.
Yeah, now this is going to be a story about whether or not Tumavitch can answer this Dark Confidant. My gut says that he probably can't because he burned a Dismember on a Delver of Secrets instead of something like Fatal Push, but these lists just don't play a ton of spot removal. They're instead focusing way more on the soft counters like Stubborn Denial, and then removal that's a little bit stronger to get bigger creatures like Diabolic Edict. And in this scenario, Matt Tumavitch with just 1 copy of Fatal Push, 2 Dismember, and 1 Diabolic Edict as his primary removal spells.
And no removal spell. You see Tumavitch fetch a Watery Grave down to 9, but here's a Death Shadow.
Yeah, Tariq doesn't have an answer for it, though, but he can draw one here off of either the Dark Confidant, his draw step, or Brainstorm.
Wastelands reveal the Dark Confidant. That'll deal 0 damage.
It's always a good feeling. Usually when you reveal too many lands off Dark Confidant, you're like, ah, man, I'm getting flooded. But you're still drawing a bunch of free cards. But when you hit Wasteland, it's like hitting a spell that deals you 0 damage.
Yes. See where Patel wants to start. We know about that Brainstorm, and he has an uncracked fetch land. Pretty frequent line of play in the Legacy format, and that is what he'll do.
Yeah, and this is what Cedric Phillips likes to call a perfect Brainstorm, where you get to draw 3 cards, put 2 back that are useless, and shuffle both away very easily and then continue playing Magic. This is one of the draws to Legacy and Brainstorm in general. Even though Tariq Patel has drawn quite a few lands this game, that Brainstorm allows him to put a couple extra back, maybe put a Dead Daze or something like that back on top of the deck, shuffle it away, and continue playing Magic.
Really fun element of brainstorming when your opponent's seen a Daze in your hand, where you kind of force them to play around it even though you may have shuffled it away.
Right. That's a good point.
There's the Wasteland, and here's a cast of Delver of Secrets. And he's going to go ahead and Wasteland the Watery Grave on his main phase. No reason to let Tumavitch untap with that one.
Yeah, very heads-up play from Tariq Patel, actually casting the Delver of Secrets before using the Wasteland. That way he could pay for double Daze.
And we go back Tumavitch's way, see what he wants to do here. There's now 2 blockers in line for the Death Shadow. The Patel still at a very healthy 19.
Heavy 19 is pretty accurate as well. Tumavitch here needs to deal some damage in a hurry, but he can't afford to deal himself too much in the process. If he goes Fetch Shock here down to 6, that Delver can transform. It doesn't have to transform. If Tariq Patel is able to find a Lightning Bolt, the attack for 3 is enough to get the job done. If the Delver does flip and Tumavitch has a secondary creature like another Death Shadow to block, that 3 damage from the Lightning Bolt could just end the game on the spot.
There was an attack for 4 as things stood. I believe that Patel has declared no blockers, and we're seeing Tumavitch crack at least one of his fetch lands before damage.
Yep. I don't honestly know what the right play here is from Tumavitch's side. You can't take too much damage, but you also need to get in as much as possible here. He goes in for a chunk for 5. Tariq Patel down to 14 life. A follow-up Death Shadow. Oh, Gurmag Angler.
Angler's
Nice
not bad. Yeah, so Shadow does come across for 5, Patel to 14. Now Gurmag Angler online. So 2 5/5s, not a bad battlefield position.
Yeah, and with Tumavitch's Bloodstained Mire representing effectively a +3/+3 on Death Shadow, Tariq Patel is effectively sitting at potentially 1 life next turn. Goes for the Force Will on the Gurmag Angler. Let's see if Tumavitch has a response.
Ooh, and a Force of Will back.
Yeah, this is classic Legacy Magic here. Force of Will targeting Force of Will, resolving that big threat. That Gurmag Angler is looming, and Tariq Patel noticeably at 13 life. There's going to need to be some blocks next turn from Tariq Patel's side.
Those are the last cards in Tumavitch's hand, and notably goes to 7 off of the Force of Will. That's Delver, Lightning Bolt, and additional damage if you want to come across for lethal this turn.
Right.
Patel was at 13. It's going to crack the Misty Rainforest, going down to 12.
Yeah, he's going to shuffle away those top 2 from that Brainstorm last turn, give himself a fresh look.
Volcanic Island's a find, so 2 Volks and an Underground Sea is the mana setup. See if he has any other responses before he triggers the Delver and the Dark Confidant here.
My guess, just take a natural draw. You can chump block and not be dead next turn. I think that's what he's going to be looking for. A threat here off the top for the draw step would be quite nice, so that Tariq doesn't have to chump block with Dark Confidant.
Dark Confidant draws a Scalding Tarn, and it looks like the Delver would have revealed another land for Patel here. So he's going to start with a Brainstorm, clean the hand up a little bit, though the Delver does not transform.
Does not look like a super good Brainstorm. He has a couple fetch lands that he probably needs to play this turn. One of them to shuffle away. Looks like a Wasteland, a Daze, and not a whole lot of action.
Yeah, Daze and Wasteland, they diminish in quality quite a bit once the battlefield's already this established. Probably a couple lands going on top. Here's a Polluted Delta to reset. But no attacks into that Gurmag Angler. Patel just has to pass back.
Yeah, and that's an effect of the Delver of Secrets not being able to transform into the Insectile Aberration. Not having flying, having less power, and now Tariq Patel's in a dire situation.
Tumavitch is going to attack. The Death Shadow now is 6/6, as well as the Gurmag Angler coming across.
This is an attack for 11, and that's with an uncracked fetch land. Tariq Patel is going to need to either put Dark Confidant or Delver of Secrets in front of that Death Shadow this turn. My guess, probably blocking with that Delver of Secrets. Needs probably a chain of cards here to get out of this jam.
Yeah, action is definitely forced, and based off of what we know of the hand, this might be one of those spots where Patel needs to draw a Brainstorm into multiple good spells on the following turn as well.
Right. And I think it's going to start with something like a young Pyromancer off the top. Maybe a True Name Nemesis could stabilize. But that Dark Confidant does continue to deal Tariq damage potentially. He has to take that into consideration.
Patel's going to throw Delver of Secrets under the Death Shadow bus. Looks like the Gurmag Angler will be connecting. And you see a crack of that fetch land, Tumavitch to 6, Underground Sea, Liliana the Last Hope. That would take care of the Dark Confidant if Patel had not dazed it.
Yeah, that Liliana of the Last Hope was an insane draw from Tumavitch, but unfortunately Tariq Patel, even though Daze didn't look good last turn, it looks damn good right there.
The Angler knocked Patel to 7. You see a fetch. This is going to put him to 6, though Tumavitch had no cards in hand. Patel's life total is not really the story here. He needs some good stuff off of this Dark Confidant and his draw step right now.
Yeah, but Dark Confidant is the card to do it.
Ooh, there's Lightning Bolt.
That's the start.
That's half of Tumavitch's life total.
Yeah, and if he can find a young Pyromancer or something here to put up a little bit of defense, or just find another Lightning Bolt, the game could be over this turn. There's a Ponder. Can he find another Lightning Bolt off the top? He has a red source.
Fetch land, Daze, fetch land. That's a shuffle. Gotta look again.
If he doesn't find it here, he is dead. Needs to find a blocker or a Lightning Bolt right now.
So there are a couple live draws, but he needs to hit something. Let's see what the draw is.
That looks like the face of a man who just died. Yep, there's a white border card. That looks like a land. Oh, there's a black card in there, too. I can't tell. Too many shadows.
When you talk about the way, like, the black card in Patel's Grixis Delver deck, it's going to be things like Gurmag Angler. He has one copy of that. Not great with Dark Confidant, so that's why you only see one copy there. There's a main deck Diabolic Edict. There's not a lot that would amount to too much on this battlefield.
Yeah, Diabolic Edict is a way out for Tariq Patel. It's not quite there, but it is a way out.
Diabolic Edict. Got to figure that the Gurmag Angler is of less value than the Shadow, so Tumavitch will sacrifice that one.
Yes and no. Sometimes Grixis Delver decks can play things like Fatal Push, and with Tariq Patel at just 5 life, those are pretty close to effectively the same thing. Yep. But what Tumavitch doesn't know is that Tariq has the red source, and now he can go block plus Lightning Bolt to take down that Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, that was a good point. You see Tumavitch is respecting maybe a potential Fatal Push. He sacrificed the Shadow.
Yeah, the problem there is if you're going to respect the Fatal Push, Tariq would have just played it beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah, you because you need to hit the Angler with the Diabolic Edict, you would have Fatal Push the Shadow first, absolutely.
Yeah, and with the Lightning Bolt revealed off the top and the Dark Confidant having to sit back and block, he also knew about the Volcanic Island from the Daze. So a potentially huge misstep here for Tumavitch. Let's see what the follow-up draw was.
Yeah, and he doesn't even want to attack here. He's just hoping that this Dark Confidant reveals something like Force of Will. Patel's at 5. It's Lightning Bolt.
No! It's all falling apart for Tumavitch, and he packs him up.
That's going to do it. Tariq Patel picks up a really tight game 1 here.
You know, I'm almost positive that if Tumavitch had attacked there with that Gurmag Angler, Tariq Patel is basically forced to cast the Lightning Bolt after the block to take care of the Gurmag Angler to clear the board and hope that the top of his deck is kind to him. An untimely demise for Matt Tumavitch there.
Yeah, I think Tumavitch's last draw step was just a land, which is definitely a frustrating draw there. But you do see Tariq Patel does take game 1 down. So players are going to look at sideboarding here. Over on Matt Tumavitch's side, we have 3 Ratchet Bombs, 3 Surgical Extraction, 2 Liliana the Last Hope, 2 Diabolic Edict, a Hymn to Tariq, a Flusterstorm, a Cry of the Carnarium, a port from Standard, a Fatal Push, and a Snapcaster Mage. What looks good here?
Well, stuff like Cry of the Carnam, I just want to point out that occasionally Standard gets these cards that are very good against exiling creatures based on, Undying or whatever the new ability is, Afterlife, and those kind of make their way into Legacy and Modern because those effects are relatively rare, and occasionally they just get better and better because R&D likes to make things. They don't like to make worse versions of cards that already exist. They like to upgrade them slightly. And you see Cry of the Carnarium is like kind of like an upgrade to Flaying Tendrils.
Yeah. And another port from Standard is a card that probably informed this decision is Arclight Phoenix is seeing a lot of play in Legacy right now.
Yeah, Arclight Phoenix, but just in general, exiling creatures can have value, and as a sweeper effect, the kind of doubles is pretty good. In this particular matchup, though, the games are going to go a little longer. They're going to be a pretty big resource battle, and Tumavitch has decided if he wants to be the aggro deck or the control deck. And I think that he probably has the tools to become the control deck with 2 more copies of Liliana the Last Hope, a couple of Diabolic Edicts, which can potentially take down those True Name Nemesis, but it's going to be kind of tough thanks to those young Pyromancers and those early Delver of Secrets. So we might see like a full transformational sideboard here from Tumavitch where he wants Edict, Hem, Lily, Ratchet Bomb, Snapcaster Mage, and Fatal Push, and maybe even Cry of the Carnarium.
Yeah, a lot of options to go bigger. And then over on Tariq Patel's side, we have 2 Pyroblast, 2 Bitter Blossom, 2 Diabolic Edict, 2 Abrade, 2 Surgical Extraction, a Grafdigger's Cage, a Pithing Needle, a Marsh Casualties, a Flusterstorm, and an Is It Staticaster. Also some options to play a more slow game on Patel's side. What do you like here?
Love Pyroblast against any Brainstorm deck. Bitter Blossom, I think, is a pretty sweet card for the matchup just because Shadow has trouble chunking through a bunch of 1/1s. Though Liliana the Last Hope and 3 copies at that could help him do just that. So it might be less effective than I'm really thinking of. The couple Diabolic Edicts help take care of those large monsters. Other than that, I'm not really seeing a whole lot. Maybe the Flusterstorm comes in to just win a counterfight.
Sure, yeah, so the players are going to shuffle up for game number 2 here, but real quick, we're going to hear a word from Okie Dokie Dice. That promo is incredible.
Yeah, that is one of the best commercials I've seen. I don't know who actually makes the commercials for Ultimate Guard and Okie Dokie Dice, but whoever they are needs to be put in charge of the rest of the company.
Give them a raise.
Because holy moly. I saw that commercial earlier today, and I wanted to run the ad. I hate ads.
We're watching with the sound off, but the music would have to be pretty bad for that not to be a great ad.
All right, here we have game 2 here. Tariq Patel going to be on the draw. Tumavitch, no turn 1 play, but that's common since he's not playing Delver of Secrets. Though no discard spell is actually pretty interesting.
Some lands to get going. Tumavitch led on Marsh Flats, Patel on Volcanic Island, and Tumavitch is going to wasteland that one. We'll go back Patel's way. See some of these games in Legacy where your opponent just has no permanence at the end of it. They're nice.
Yeah, nice is one word. A hellscape from which there is no return is another.
It's really a perspective thing, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, some people just want to watch the world burn, you know? And that's okay. That's a viewpoint you are allowed to have, apparently.
Magic is for everyone.
Sure.
Even people who hate their opponent controlling permanence.
I'm sorry, Cube April.
I'm a big fan of April King's brand.
I have kids.
Fetch Shock, Watery Grave for Tumavitch. He'll go to 17. I spotted that Hymn to Turok in the hand. I suppose there's 4 copies in the 75, 3 may in one side.
I swear if Matt Tumavitch plays and cracks another fetch land here before casting a spell, I was going to lose it.
Well, here's a Ponder. Patel's going to crack Scalding Tarn in response. He'll go to 19.
Now, I love this play, actually, from Tumavitch. He absolutely has another land to play. I'm pretty sure Tumavitch is actually baiting out a Daze here or a Spell Pierce or Flusterstorm from Tariq Patel's side. He wants this Ponder to get countered, but he wants to make it look like he doesn't have another land to play.
Yeah, those are really tenuous spots in Legacy where there's definitely not just a correct answer here. Patel's going to fire off Pyroblast, though. That'll counter it.
And another Wasteland. He baited out the fetch.
Love the line from Tumavitch here. We'll see if Patel has some more lands. 2 of them already in the bin. And one thing you want to do in Legacy is keep track of how many red sources are even in the deck. There are 3 Volcanic Islands.
That's lucky, because there probably ain't no bad lands.
Patel wrote the words "basic island" on his deck list.
I respect a man who will write the words "basic islands" on his deck list.
It's going to be Underground Sea is the fine, though. How many times can you realistically get Wasteland into the same game, you know? It's been 2 so far.
I mean, most of the time it's like 4, right?
Yeah, four I believe is the ceiling.
You know, so, I mean, Life in the Loam decks maybe a little
That's
more.
True, it's true. Sometimes you get Wastelanded all the times.
Now here, Matt Tumavitch is aggressively using this Daze to knock off that Ponder. He's trying to strangle Tariq Patel's mana development. Those 2 Wastelands, backed by knocking off that Ponder. This could put Tariq Patel super far behind early on in this game.
We go in for sort of a submission hold here as we go back Tumavitch's way. That Watery Grave back in the hand. Looking at a different land, though. Bloodstained Mire's the play, and he'll pass back.
Yeah, kind of giving away that he has another land to play, but that's okay. He wants to be able to potentially deal himself an extra point of damage. The 5 points will allow him to get down to 12 life off the fetch and the shock, and that'll let him play a Death Shadow next turn if he so chooses.
And the mana denial plan not super working out. Misty Rainforest for Patel, and we'll go back Tumavitch's way.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the deck that plays 17 or 18 lands or whatever just happens to draw 4 or 5 of them, you know, just without any filtering.
When your opponent just has the land, it certainly makes sense to fire off the Wastelands. Tumavitch is going to shock for that Watery Grave, and here's a Thoughtseize. We'll get a look at Patel's hand, see how many more lands he might have.
Yep,
and
looks like
a bunch
0.
Of spells.
Oh, no, he has a Scalding Tarn. Scalding Tarn, Preordain, Pyroblast, Force of Will, Daze is the hand for Tariq Patel. Now, Tumavitch has a choice here with this Thoughtseize. I'm actually leaning towards the Preordain. Now, I'll tell you why. Force of Will and Daze here are kind of a 2-card combo that effectively do the same thing. The Preordain kind of functions autonomously from those 2 cards. And then the Pyroblast here, you know, it's going to counter like a Brainstorm or something later on. But if he has a Brainstorm in hand, he can't really cast it this turn anyway because of that Daze. Now, he could take Daze and then potentially shock casting Death Shadow and force the Force of Will from Tariq Patel. Now, that's a play that I can get behind.
Some pretty interesting dynamic with the Pyroblast as well, where you know you've already wasted 2 Volcanic Islands. There's a play, if it's not already true, you can make it true inevitably, where that Pyroblast is not castable.
Yeah, oftentimes after sideboard here, though, the biggest concern becomes resource management. And if you can force your opponent to cast Force of Will on something, anything, that's a +1 card, especially when it's something as cheap as like a Death Shadow only costing 1 mana.
And definitely no problem leaving the Force there. And just like you said, Tumavitch is going to take the Preordain, so all Patel has is Scalding Tarn. He's going to pass back. Not a very proactive hand, just kind of waiting on some action from Tumavitch.
Yeah, and they're kind of in similar spots. Neither player has a lot of mana. Both players have quite a few cards in hand, as like, you know, key disruptive pieces like Daze. Tariq has a Force of Will, and it's kind of just this jockeying for position game where a lot of what's happening is happening in hand and in deck manipulation and not necessarily on the battlefield. And if you can understand and see everything that's going on, it becomes this interesting battle of wits. But for those of you who are newer to Legacy, I can see how this is a bit frustrating just because it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot going on, but behind the curtain, there is a ton of stuff going on.
Ton of subtle things. Even just on this turn, Tumavitch casts Ponder into known Pyroblast, and Patel is going to let that one go.
Yeah, with only 1 red source of mana left in his deck, and Tumavitch hasn't played a land yet this turn, he can't really afford to get that Wastelanded. Wants to save it for probably something like Jace Fringe Prodigy or Brainstorm later on.
Yeah, Brainstorm definitely usually a fair bit more powerful than Ponder, though Ponder no slouch.
Yeah, and we did actually see him use a Pyroblast on a Ponder already, so he definitely has the capability to fire it off, so to speak.
Tumavitch played a 3rd land drop. It was Underground Sea. Patel just drew and passed back, and now Tumavitch is going to untap and fire off him to Tariq.
Yeah, and this effectively invalidates that Daze from Tariq Patel. And Tariq Patel doesn't want to get hit with a random discard, chooses to Force of Will to protect that Pyroblast and those other cards in hand that are potentially better than the Force of Will and Daze, which aren't super good right now.
Yeah, decides, no thank you on the random discard. I will pay a life to discard these cards that I believe to be the bad ones. Like that Force by Patel a lot.
Yeah, I mean, what happens if he gets hit with the him to Tariq, and he gets left with Force of Will, no blue card?
Yes.
You know, something like that would be a disaster.
Tumavitch has been hanging out with a Death Shadow in hand. Seems like he's going to wait to play around a number of things, Lightning Bolt being a big one.
Yeah, you definitely want to get it up to at least a 4/4 before you cast a Death Shadow in this matchup, just because of how many Lightning Bolts compared to the other removal spells the Grixis Delver deck plays.
So Patel's going to sacrifice that Misty Rainforest. It's another Underground Sea, play a Wasteland, and cast True Name Nemesis. You got to have an answer to that one.
Now, that would normally be very, very good here, though. Unfortunately for Tariq Patel, Tumavitch does have a Diabolic Edict in hand, which he will almost certainly use to take care of that True Name right now.
Yep, and he's going to go for that line. Patel does not have any additional counter magic on that. That resolves, and Tumavitch thinking about cracking that fetch land. You see the Death Shadow at the front of the hand. So he's going to crack down to 12. It's going to be Watery Grave down to 10.
Yeah, he knows the daze is gone. He can pretty safely cast a Death Shadow here. And that will also expose the last red mana from Tariq Patel. So, and he hasn't played a land yet. So Tumavitch can cast Death Shadow. Tariq's in a Vice Grip. Do you fetch to Lightning Bolt it if he even has the Lightning Bolt? And if you do, there's a chance you get Wastelanded before you ever even get to use that Pyroblast.
So he's tapping that land. Now it looks like Brainstorm's at the front of the hand. There's Death Shadow again. He's thinking about it. There's the Shadow. Makes a bit more sense than brainstorming at that juncture in a turn.
Now, I do believe Tariq Patel also has a Diabolic Edict in hand here, so we're going to have basically a clean battlefield next turn going into Tumavitch's side.
Yeah, and there it is. Tumavitch will sacrifice the Death Shadow. Patel will use the Wasteland and Underground Sea back Tumavitch's way.
A land off the top is going to protect this him to Tariq from a daze. Tariq Patel is going to potentially lose his entire hand here.
Yeah, it's a 2-card hand. He's going to sacrifice Scalding Tarn in response. See what actually has, maybe using a Brainstorm to protect some card.
Now here, if I was Tariq Patel, I'd be looking to cast his Brainstorm just to dig a little deeper and make sure I can have a pretty good following turn. You don't actually care if that Pyroblast gets hit next turn. You're losing your whole hand here, so looks like he's going to protect the two better spells. He's going to let a land and Pyroblast go.
Patel at 15 from that fetch. There was Brainstorm, Pyroblast, land, and down. Tumavitch will pass back, up 2 cards in hand to 0 in Patel's, and Dark Confidant was left on top. That is a pretty nice one.
Yeah, that's super good. Tumavitch actually had the option last turn to cast Brainstorm off of the Bloodstained Mire and look for a Wasteland. Well, he can just do it this turn instead, but now, looking down the barrel of a Dark Confidant, he needs to find an answer real quick here.
He'll start with Brainstorm. Death Shadow, Daze, Fetch Land were picked up. Nothing in the way of an answer to Dark Confidant there. The Shadow is a large threat anyway.
Yeah, Shadow's big. He did pick up a Preordain as well, so he can fetch away the 2 cards after he puts 2 back on top. Cast that Preordain, look for one of his Fatal Pushes, potentially Diabolic Edict or Dismember, and maybe even still cast the Death Shadow if he's able to find a land.
He fetches up Watery Grave down to 7. I believe the holdings Preordain, Daze, Death Shadow currently. And there's the Preordain.
I mean, the floor for this turn is cast Death Shadow.
Ooh, Fatal Pushes in the top. And Liliana.
Wow.
The last hope. Keeps both of those. Fatal Push or Dark Confidant.
And even though he could cast a very large Death Shadow in this turn, a 1-mana 6/6,
oh,
this is just
Young Pyromancer. Liliana last hope.
Baby.
We kept that one on top for a reason. That is down.
We got 3 in the deck for a reason.
And Patel's just going to draw a card and pass back. Tumavitch pretty firmly in the driver's seat from this point.
Yeah, that was one of the best Preordains I've ever seen, and I don't think that's an exaggeration.
-2 on Liliana. Get back a Death Shadow. He'll cast that one. Does it resolve? It does. Second Death Shadow. What you got? 2 6/6s.
And that'll be all she wrote. We're going to pack it in here. Oh.
Patel's going to take some looks with the Brainstorm, though not really much in the way of live draws from this position.
Lightning Bolt off the top. There's a chance that the Death Shadows aren't lethal next turn, right? They need to get up to 8/8s, which will put Tumavitch down to 5 if he so chooses. And, you know, if he's able to hit Lightning Bolt into untapped Lightning Bolt and Tumavitch just takes 1 damage, You know, maybe. It's probably over, though.
Yeah, we'll see. Patel is not conceding immediately after seeing the brainstorm, so potentially a good sign. But he seems pretty unsure of what to do. It's a tight spot. He's under a significant duress here. Gurmag Angler was found, so he's going to cast that one, but it is currently smaller than the shadows already.
Yeah, so it's kind of be put in chump block mode plus the Liliana plus. I mean, it's still going to have 3 power, though, so still, ooh.
Right,
Goes
so
to 5 for a dismember. That actually should be lethal here.
Yep.
Attacking for 16. Tumavitch going to take down game 2.
Remove the blocker, relevantly pump up your shadows by paying the life, and we are going to a deciding 3rd game here.
Yeah, really well played from Tumavitch in that game. A bit of a redemption from game 1 with that pretty large mistake against the Diabolic Edict from Tariq Patel. All right, both players here probably going to stick to their guns, I would imagine. The games are just a bit longer, a bit grindier, and sometimes one player just comes out ahead. I think after sideboard, thanks to those 3 total copies of Liliana the Last Hope, I think Tumavitch is going to take this one down.
Yeah, and you saw Tumavitch, he had copies of Liliana. It seems like he's definitely going bigger. Based off of Patel's keep, with a counterspell heavy hand, a pretty anemic draw, it seems like he's also leaning on some bigger elements. That's a hand that's made in a pretty big way by drawing Bitter Blossom, for example.
Yeah.
Seems like both players trying to go longer in the sideboard games.
Yeah, I mean, after watching that game, I'm not even sure that Tariq Patel needs Power Blast in his deck after sideboard. I think you just need to be a lot more proactive. Something like Daze or Force Duel you want to keep in to maybe protect or force through a True Name Nemesis, or potentially just keep something like Delver of Secrets running. But if the game goes long, you're just going to have to fight these Liliana the Last Hopes, and that is a tough Planeswalker to beat when you're playing both Dark Confidant and Young Pyromancer.
So you may have seen this already on Twitter, but we're very happy to announce a new set of 5 personality tokens from more of your favorite personalities over here at Star City Games. You see a nice selection here. Jeremy Knoll actually working in the booth this weekend, doing some directing.
Yeah, and he is supplanting Elliot Raff's plant token in the box. And Jeremy Knoll, of course, is a plant. And that's one of his pets, his dog in the background. I don't know his name. Jeremy, what's your pet's name? Oh, it's Malcolm.
I like it.
I like
it
it
dog
too.
name. I like it when dogs have people names.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the next one. Justin Parnell. He's one of the golden zombies, I believe, from Theros block. And he also has a Progenitus in the background. Now, for those of you who watch Commander Versus, I'm sure this is an inside joke that I don't get. So I'm just going to say he's a golden zombie from Theros.
And Jonathan Suarez, going to be the assembly worker. You can make these off of Mishra's,
No, it's not factory.
Yeah, the one that makes the token. Mishra's something or other. Urza's factory is what it is. That's it.
Stephen Green's a survivor token. Now, he told me the name of the card.
Varchild's War Riders.
There it is.
Yeah.
But honestly, he just, look at the face on Stephen Green in this picture, right? He kind of looks like Danny What's-His-Face.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Danny What's-His-Face.
I mean, Hot Rod. Danny something with the curly hair, and he's loud and boisterous. He was in the
Andy
no,
Samberg?
not Andy Samberg, the guy who's also in the movie. God.
Yorma and Akiva.
No, everyone on Twitch knows who I'm talking about. It's okay. Kyle West here, of course, with a homunculus token. Nothing else to say there. It's cute AF.
Director Kyle West does some great work behind the scenes for us. Really happy to see him getting one of these tokens as well.
Danny McBride. There it is. Can we pull it back up? Now that I got it, I just want everyone at home. Oh, no, we should watch Magic. Never mind.
This might be better use of everyone's time.
Man, I can't believe I had no backup there.
I'm sorry, man.
It's like you don't watch movies.
I like Hot Rod. I thought I would have been with you on a cool beans joke. Celebrities'
I forgot.
names.
I was going to say Eastbound and Down, but I couldn't remember the name of the show.
I'm real bad at celebrity names.
I watched all of Eastbound and Down in about a week or less, and it's one of those shows that's really funny, but then you just kind of forget about over time because none of the characters really
Not a lot of resonance, not a lot of emotional attachment.
Yeah, I don't think I can really empathize with the, millionaire baseball player who threw his life away.
Not so much. Pretty different walks of life.
Yeah.
So players are going to start here trading off cantrips like you do in Legacy. Patel with Volcanic Island into Preordain. Tumavitch is going to fetch up a Watery Grave to 17 and lead on a Ponder.
Now, both players here just casting a card draw split early on, kind of making sure that they can curve out over the next few turns, utilizing as much mana as possible while also protecting themselves from their opponent's threats.
Tumavitch thought for a bit and did keep the cards off of Ponder, I believe. Basic Swamp and 2 removal spells. Diabolic Edict was drawn for the Ponder. Patel is just going to wasteland Tumavitch and cast a Ponder of his own. Daze, Delver of Secrets, Brainstorm. These are powerful cards. Assuming Patel already has a second land, those are really nice ones, and he's going to keep them.
Yeah, after busting that Wasteland, this is just going to be a battle over mana once again. And whoever can land the first threat while disrupting the opponent is going to have a pretty significant edge. So Tariq Patel, keeping that Delver of Secrets on top, knows he needs to put some pressure on Matt Tumavitch starting next turn. Let's see if Matt Tumavitch can match it.
Tumavitch draws that Basic Swamp for turn. He's going to use a March Flash to shuffle away the 3rd card off the Ponder. Underground sees the find. He'll go to 16.
Interesting enough, just not fetching up Shocklands, even though he has Death Shadow in hand. Just looking to have one big turn later on, I think.
Brainstorm is where he'll start, but yeah, keeping his life total at a pretty high number. Him to Turok, Dismember, Snapcaster Mage. Those are some nice ones.
It's pretty interesting. Tumavitch actually chose to main phase this Brainstorm this turn with Tariq Patel tapped out. That's to play around Pyroblast. But also, if Tariq Patel wants to Daze, it's going to set him back a land next turn, so he can't cast a Dark Confidant of his own, as well as allowing Matt Tumavitch to use Daze kind of proactively to protect that Brainstorm if he so chooses.
Patel plays a 2nd Volcanic Island and casts Delver of Secrets. We'll go back Tumavitch's way. Got that Basic Swamp coming towards the front of the hand. There's a Wasteland hanging out in the holdings as well, though double Volcanic Island, not a very inviting position to be wastelanding from. We'll see exactly where Tumavitch does go.
Yeah, you never really want to play the Wasteland game when your opponent has the Delver of Secrets. You know, sometimes it's like a Hail Mary on turn 1 if you're just hoping that your opponent just doesn't have another land to play. You know, a lot of times people will skew towards playing Delver of Secrets first to get pressure on the battlefield before they play something like Ponder, and you can get them like that. But here, both players have demonstrated they have a reasonable amount of mana, and it's all about leveraging the battlefield.
Tumavitch landed on Swamp, him to Turok. Patel dazed that one, and now transforms the Delver to Brainstorm. That is some scary stuff.
Yeah, and main phase Brainstorm from Tariq Patel, he doesn't actually care if he gets dazed here, I don't think, and notices that he just needs to make sure he can potentially hit a fetch land and shuffle away a few dead cards. Or at the very least, putting more stock in that than getting hit with a daze.
You see the Volcanic Island he just picked up in the holdings, and he's currently planning on keeping that one in the hand. Seems like he doesn't have a way to reset the library.
Yeah, I think he's just protecting 2 cards on top of the deck from him to Tariq or... Ooh, and a big misstep here from Tariq Patel. Potentially chose not to attack, but maybe doesn't want to turn on the potential for Death Shadow. A very interesting turn there from Tariq. Yeah. You could tell he was really hesitant about it.
Volcanic Island pass, so Tumavitch stays at 16. It's a bit telling, you know, when your opponent just naturally has Basic Swamp, or maybe it's disguised information, however you want to interpret it, but Tumavitch's deck not doing a great job at lowering his own life total. So for now, Patel just says, you know, I can't really deal with the Death Shadow, so I don't want to make that a potential option.
Right, and that's a very controlling way to approach the game. And if Tariq Patel has the answers to any other potential threats, you know, maybe a counterspell for a Liliana of the Last Hope, something like that, then he's going to be in pretty good shape here. He can basically turn the corner at any point.
Tumavitch plays a Wasteland, uses that in the Swamp to cast Diabolic Edict. That catches a Spell Pierce from Patel. So even though he's not attacking, he wants to maintain his creature, and Tumavitch will dismember down to 12 and take care of that Delver.
Yeah, and here you're going to see Tumavitch taking that big chunk of damage. Now is able to just cast Death Shadows, but they're pretty small. So that 3 life points that Tariq Patel chose not to deal might actually end up being a deciding factor in this game.
Yeah, it's a difference between a 1-1 and a 4-4 right now. Patel draws for turn. You see there was no 3rd land. That certainly makes sense the way it shook out so far, just passing back with those 2 Volcanics.
A really tight-knit game here. Both players looking to stick some threat and hope that it's good enough. Tariq Patel, without access to black mana right now, could potentially be facing down a large Death Shadow or Gurmag Angler, depending on how the rest of this turn goes.
Tumavitch will start his turn with the Brainstorm. Jace, Fin's Prodigy, Fatal Push, Ponder are the pickups.
And here you're going to see Tumavitch really get punished for that basic swamp. He has multiple blue cards in hand that he could cast this turn, like a Ponder, to kind of reset the top of the library. Instead, just stuck, maybe casting nothing, maybe just casting a 1/1 Death Shadow.
A bit choked on blue mana here. And the basic swamp is an inclusion largely as a nod to the card Ghost Quarter, but it actually bites you in the Wasteland matchups a bit, just because blue mana is so much better than black mana.
Right. I mean, it's there also because of the card Blood Moon. If you know you're playing against the Mono Red Prison deck, being able to unlock Gurmag Angler or Death Shadow early on, just making sure you don't get locked out of black mana is a pretty big deal.
Tumavitch lands a Ratchet Bomb and passes over to Patel. Patel's going to start with a Brainstorm, kind of feeling like he has to get something going here.
Yeah, and here, even though if Tariq has a 1-mana play here, like another Delver of Secrets, that Ratchet Bomb can potentially check it. So he probably needs to find something like a Young Pyromancer, maybe even Dark Confidant here would be nice. Force Tumavitch to have the answer next turn in a spell as opposed to just using the Ratchet Bomb.
Yeah, the bomb would not be able to stop you from getting at least one card off of your Confidant, though not clear that Patel has found that third land. He's going to cast Ponder after resolving the Brainstorm and immediately shuffle. Looks like 3 spells away.
Yeah, I mean, you always hate to see Ponders like that. Normally when you cast a Ponder, you're going to, especially this late in the game, you're looking for just all spells. The triple spell Ponder is the dream. And instead, he just needs black mana. He just needs land in general.
Well, there's Underground Sea. Not a bad pickup after the shuffle.
Yeah, let's see if he has a follow-up here for it. Gurmag Angler, that is a big one.
That's a tough one to Ratchet Bomb, I'll say that much.
Yeah, and with Tumavitch already using 1 copy of Dismember last turn, turn before, chance he actually just doesn't have an answer to this 5/5.
Yeah, he's cast a Diabolic Edict in this game as well.
Yeah.
Tumavitch going to crank the Ratchet Bomb up to 1. See if he has some action on this Gurmag Angler. Draws that Fatal Push. That's no good.
I mean, this Wasteland can take care of the black mana. He has a Fatal Push kind of rotting in hand. He has a Ponder he can use to dig. It's a really tough turn for Tumavitch. I'm curious how he's going to navigate this. Looks like Jace Vryn's Prodigy in hand. Now, that's one that can potentially flashback Dismember or Diabolic Edict can take care of that Gurmag, but he needs to be able to untap with it and fade a counterspell.
And I have to imagine that if Tumavitch had a blue land instead of the swamp, he would have cast Jace and not Ratchet Bomb in the previous turn.
Right.
And then he'd be golden.
Right.
The swamp is really costing him here. He's got Jace and Ponder at the front of the hand. It's entirely possible you can only cast one of those cards this turn. Tapping 2 mana there. There's the Jace Vryn's Prodigy. He really wants to be able to transform that one on the following turn. He's going to pass over to Patel.
Yeah, and he chooses to play around Daze by not using the Wasteland. Also playing around potentially having a Daze next turn by not cracking the Wasteland and casting that Diabolic Edict or what have you.
Yeah, the mana is a bit tight. He wants to be able to flash that one back and get through a Daze, and leaves Patel with black mana for this turn, and you see Patel attacks with that Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, Patel decides it's time to turn the corner. He's going to start attacking here. He's going to knock Tumavitch down to 7. He's dead in 2 attacks. Tariq actually has a Lightning Bolt in hand. This is an interesting play to not kill that Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
Yeah, not exactly sure what's going on there. We'll see how it plays out as we're back on Tumavitch's side. Snapcaster Mage added to the hand. I believe we are well ahead of the territory of transforming the Jace on 1 activation.
Oh, yeah. You only need 5 total cards. Pretty sure you hit that on turn 2.
There's an activation on the Jace. We'll see if this forces some action from Patel.
All right. Tariq Patel here takes a look at the graveyard. Now, the transformation of Jace Vryn's Prodigy is tied to the resolution of this ability. So Tariq Patel can choose to use the Lightning Bolt now. But now I'm curious why he didn't just use the Lightning Bolt on his own turn. Now Tumavitch actually has a bit more information. He can choose what to loot away, and he gets a loot out of it.
Right. And not entirely clear what the decision point was there, but the Lightning Bolt does resolve, and now Tumavitch will loot off of that Jace activation. Like Ratchet Bomb was the draw there.
Yeah, that's not good. Tumavitch does have that Snapcaster Mage, so if he had drawn a land, he could go Snapcaster, Diabolic Edict, providing another removal spell, as well as potentially just a chump blocker should the Diabolic Edict get countered.
Right. Yeah, Ratchet Bomb was the draw, Ratchet Bomb was the discard. Not in the market for two of those.
Yeah, we got Ponder, we got Snapcaster Mage, we got Liliana, the Last Hope. We could just potentially peel a Death Shadow, which would be a 6/6, and check that Gurmag Angler nicely.
Liliana, the Last Hope, was just pushed forward, but Tumavitch decides against that, and he's actually going to cast Snapcaster Mage. I guess Dismember will be the target here?
I guess so.
He'll go to 3. Okay.
This is dangerous. A Spell Pierce on the Dismember.
Ooh.
And we're left with a chump blocking Snapcaster Mage. Any removal spell off the top is going to do it. There's a Diabolic Edict, and Tumavitch is taking the L.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine that's resolving, and it does. Patel is going to take this one down 2-1 over Matt Tumavitch.
Yeah, just a nail biter, and you can see every turn those micro decisions are just so important. Matt Tumavitch in game 1 sacrifices the wrong creature to Diabolic Edict, trying to play her on a potential fatal push. Instead, gets ultimately punished by just a Lightning Bolt. And then in that game 3, just at one point drawing the Swamp, part of a deck building restriction to help him play around things like Blood Moon and Ghost Quarter, ultimately